Hello there, you're watching our television. This is State of Business. I am Pamudha Katakampala. In our top stories tonight, February sees purchasing managers indices contact. Nation seeks to develop export sector. Hi there, welcome back. Now let's have a detailed look at today's stories. Now, one of our top stories. Purchasing managers indices for both manufacturing and services activities contracted in February 2023. Now, this is as reported by the Statistics Department of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. The manufacturing PMI recorded an index value of 42.3 in February, indicating a continued setback in manufacturing activities on a month-on-month basis. The setback was driven by subdued performance observed in new orders, production, employment and stock of purchases. The decline in new orders and production was mainly driven by subdued demand observed in the manufacture of food and beverages and textile and wearing apparel sectors. Many representatives from the food and beverages sector mentioned that the decline in demand was mainly due to deterioration of purchasing power of the consumers. However, they expect demand to increase on a month-on-month basis targeting the festive season in April. Further, many manufacturers mentioned that the latest round of electricity tariff hike adversely affected their cost structure. Meanwhile, employment and stock of purchases also continued to decline in line with the decline in new orders and production. It was observed that the manufacturers maintained material stock inventory at a minimum level considering subdued demand conditions and the declining trend of global commodity prices, freight and exchange rates. Further, supplies delivery time remained unchanged at the previous month's level. Expectations from manufacturing activities for the next 3 months indicated an improvement. This is based on an increase in demand and production targeting the upcoming festive season despite the adverse impact of the decline in disposable income. Meanwhile, the services sector PMI dropped to an index value of 48.7 in February 2023, indicating a deterioration across the services sector. This is driven by the declines observed in new businesses, business activities, employment and backlogs of work. New businesses declined in February 2023 compared to January 2023, particularly with the decreases observed in transportation, insurance and postal and courier subsectors. Business activities in the services sector declined in February 2023 after 6 months of continuous growth. Accordingly, business activities related to wholesale and retail trade subsector continued to deteriorate amid subdued consumer demand driven by diminishing purchasing power. Further, transportation subsector also continued to decline due to drop in freight volumes. Meanwhile, human health, insurance and postal and courier subsectors also showed decreases during the month. Nevertheless, the financial sector continued to improve with the improvements in deposits. Employment continued to decline in February due to resignations, migrations and retirements occurred during the month. Meanwhile, backlogs of work also decreased during the month in line with a reduction in new businesses. Expectations for business activities for the next 3 months improved in February amid increase in tourist arrivals, upcoming festive season and expectations on greater economic stability. Nevertheless, some respondents expressed their concerns over shrinking margins in line with high taxes and electricity tariff and subdued demand due to decline in disposable income. Amidst widespread protests against heavy taxation, the government recently hinted that the pay-as-you-earn or the PAYE tax threshold might be revised by April. Now, PAYE tax is a direct tax paid by individuals. The latest tax revision has made every person owning over 100,000 rupees liable. However, a spokesperson for the Cabinet of Ministers, Banlu Gunawardena, holds that the PAYE tax hike only applies to 10% of all state sector workers. Yet he acknowledged that their allowances were also partly slashed due to tax reforms introduced amidst the ongoing economic crisis. Earlier, non-cash benefits were added to PAYE tax, but the new move has pulled the majority of public sector employees into the tax net for the first time. Spokesperson Gunawardene also noted that President Ranil Wickremesinghe, in his capacity as Minister of Finance, Economic Stabilisation and National Policies, has directed the Secretary to the Treasury to explore the possibility of extending some relief to state sector workers. The Cabinet of Ministers has cleared a proposal to submit the revised orders published on the Employees Trust Fund Act for Parliament approval. The ETF orders made under the Employees Trust Fund Act number 46 of 1980 were published in Government Gazette number 125 on the 23rd of January 1981. On the 22nd of February 2022, these orders were again revised by orders published in Extraordinary Gazette number 2311/39. The proposal to this effect, tabled by President Ranil Wickremesinghe in his capacity as Minister of Finance, Economic Stabilisation and National Policies, was approved by the Cabinet of Ministers. Further, Cabinet spokesperson Bandulu Gunawardene expressed that the government is confident of International Monetary Fund support, noting that it has already been positively reflected on economic sentiments. Spokesperson Gunawardene was hopeful that the inflation will also drop gradually to a single digit, but highlighted it was critical to keep the forex outflow at a minimum whilst maintaining a steady surplus in the current account. Stay tuned for more stories after this short commercial break.
වයිකම් ටෙලිස් 2022 වසරේ ජනප්‍රියතම ටෙලිනාට්‍ය නළුවා අද දිනට ප්‍රතිඵල. වසරේ ජනප්‍රියතම ටෙලිනාට්‍ය නිලිය අද දිනට ප්‍රතිඵල.
Welcome back, you're watching CNA Business Now. One of our top stories. The UK government recently held a series of events in Colombo for their new trade preferences scheme, the Developing Country Trading Scheme, which will launch this year. The main event was attended by State Minister of Finance Shehan Semasinghe, Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe and senior officials from the Department of Commerce. It also included the Export Development Board and the Board of Investment. The event was delivered in partnership with the Council for Business with Britain, the UK-Sri Lanka Bilateral Trade Association. UK officials showcased high potential value chains and products that can benefit from the new scheme. This was based on research into UK retailers and consumers' buying considerations, as well as insights from Sri Lankan producers, trade programs and policymakers. While Sri Lanka exports numerous high-value products to the UK, including textiles, tea and rubber, there has been a steady decline in trade volumes between Sri Lanka and the UK since 2018. Under UK trade preferences, Sri Lankan exports will benefit from generous tariff cuts and new products will be brought into scope. This will facilitate access to UK market for Sri Lankan businesses across a wide range of industries. The new scheme has been designed to grow free and fair trade with 65 countries, including Sri Lanka, thereby creating jobs and boosting their economies. The DCTs offers one of the most generous sets of trading preferences in the world and demonstrates the UK's commitment to building long-term, mutually beneficial relationships with the countries like Sri Lanka. Meanwhile, the Export Development Board recently organised an entrepreneurship programme called Kickstart Weekend. Now, it was organised to benefit undergraduates following the Management and Information Technology degree offered by the University of Kelaniya. The programme was organised in collaboration with the Square Hub Private Limited and the University of Kelaniya. Through experiential learning, Kickstart Weekend aimed to teach and promote entrepreneurship to establish startups focusing innovation. This program facilitated undergraduates to conceptualize an entrepreneurial idea and pitch it to an expert panel of state and private sector judges. The best ideas developed by students were selected as the winners of the Kickstart Weekend. The Export Development Board, along with startup ecosystem partners, wishes to assist promising concepts to develop into real-world businesses. Ecosystem partners will help develop these ideas into businesses, overcoming the obstacles which reach global markets and each dollar of revenue. Sri Lanka is globally known as an emerging destination for IT and IT-enabled services. The ICT or BPM industry is at the front line of the export earning sectors and reached this position in a shorter order compared to other export sectors. One of the reasons for this development is that Sri Lanka has an important resource than any other country, the talent. The sector recorded 300% growth over a decade, and there was over 600 companies at present. The sector has achieved around $1.5 billion in 2022 and expect to reach $5 billion in 2025. In order to cater to this exponential growth, the industry requires more IT talent to the industry and more tech entrepreneurs to create startups. The Export Development Board is collaborating with the universities to develop the entrepreneurship skills of IT undergraduates. The first session of the Joint Committee for Consular Affairs between Sri Lanka and the United Arab Emirates was recently held in Colombo. It included the participation of official delegations representing Sri Lanka and the UAE. The meeting was conducted as per the provisions of the Memorandum of Understanding signed between Sri Lanka and the UAE in November 2017. The meeting was co-chaired by Additional Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in charge of Consular Affairs and Political Affairs from Middle East, Al Muhammad Jauhar, and Assistant Under Secretary for Consular Affairs of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of the UAE, Faisal Issa Lutfi Ali. The respective delegations comprise officials representing the Ministries of Foreign Affairs and other vital line ministries and agencies. The meeting focused on a wide range of mutually important consular-related areas including human smuggling and human trafficking. It also covered illegal migration, deportation and repatriation of nationals in custody of both countries and expediting compensation payment to eligible persons. Both delegations agreed to enhance cooperation in combating human trafficking, including by sharing information. The UAE delegation also made a comprehensive presentation on the existing labour laws and regulations with an emphasis on the rights of employees. It also touched on the procedure to be followed in notifying authorities when labour contracts are violated and providing relief to affected persons. It was also decided to include the updated UAE labour regulations in the Sri Lanka Bureau of Foreign Employment training modules with a view to educating prospective migrant workers. The heads of delegation focus on continuing the interactions on mutually agreed matters at the JCCA as per the provisions of the MOU and assured the implementation of the decisions. Stay tuned, we'll be right back with the stock update.
වයිකම් පිලිස් 2022 වසරේ ජනප්‍රියතම ටෙලිනාට්‍ය නළුවා අද දිනට ප්‍රතිඵල. වසරේ ජනප්‍රියතම ටෙලිනාට්‍ය නිලිය අද දිනට ප්‍රතිඵල.
IWS Aviation.
Welcome back, you're with Center Basis and now the stock update. Trading at Colombo Stock Exchange ended on positive notes today. The All-Share Price Index gained 8.76 points to close at 9,596.55 and the S&P SL 20 gained 4.61 points to close at 2,814.61. The turnover was 1.2 billion rupees and over 71 million shares were traded. Coming up next are Forex rates. And that's all our news for today. For this and more, subscribe to our channel on YouTube and follow us on